Hello, Sally Henderson, high stakes leadership mentor and creator of The Real Method. Really thrilled to be bringing part 3 of my leadership series specifically for leaders in their very first CEO role. I'm a great believer, as you'll know if you've been following me, in that we are better together. So I'm doing these videos to give tools and techniques and advice from my mentoring and from my leadership program so I can help as many people in that critical role of CEO, especially for the first time, as possible. So today I want to share with you why successful leaders need a job spec. Now you say the word job spec and people normally just turn off, don't they? It's kind of categorized as a boring corporate document that doesn't really motivate or inspire. Well, I think that's such out of date thinking. When I work with my clients who are all highly successful senior people, I always start by asking these 2 questions. The first one is, how are you feeling, really? And that's in itself a fascinating conversation. The second is, can you just describe your job to me clearly, and especially what your purpose is as CEO? 9 out of 10 CEOs that I ask that question to, first time or established, cannot answer. In fact, I was having this very conversation only last week with a newly promoted CEO who, when I said, oh, by the way, do you have a job spec? Is your job clear? At first they said, oh, yes. And then they thought about it and they were, actually, no. So imagine the person running the company as chief executive officer, more often than not, doesn't even have a job spec. When that's the case, how are you as a first-time CEO meant to understand what that job even is? And more importantly, what's the difference between excelling in that job as a great CEO and delivering as a good CEO? Without clarity, you can't benchmark and you can't take that read of how you think you are doing. In comes the stress, in comes the gremlins, and off we go. So to help, I want to gift you how you can get clear about your role and create a really agile, modern, helpful job spec. But more than a job spec, clarity on understanding, what does your job as CEO even mean? And you know that I can get very passionate when I go into these videos, so I write things down on Post-it notes so I don't end up giving you a mammoth video. So there are 2 questions that you need your understanding of your job as CEO to answer. You need to be able to articulate what is the core purpose of your role. What's the benefit? What's the value your role is bringing? And I don't mean just, we're leading the company, building culture, building profits. Yes, but that's very generic, isn't it? Can you, in 1 sentence, articulate your purpose as CEO and the benefit? So for me, and I've worked really hard on this, it's still a work in progress, but I do really like where it is now. My role is as a high stakes leadership mentor. And I work with high performing senior leaders to achieve success that feels right. That success that feels right is the benefit I'm so passionate to bring about through all of my work, because I really believe it's important. What do you believe is important as a benefit from you being in that CEO role for the very first time? Just take a moment. Can you answer that question? Now, the second thing that you want to be clear about in your job and to have articulated, what are the key metrics? I talked about benchmarking success and good and great. Are there agreed metrics about your job as CEO, both hard and soft? Because often that's assumed. People go, oh yes, of course there's metrics in place. And there may well be, but are they aligned? Are they agreed? And are they accurate? Okay? Because so many times people just think it's there and it's not. Not until you dig into it, you realize it's neither of those 3 things: aligned, accurate, and effective. So how are you going to create, they're the questions you want to answer, the purpose and the metrics. How are you then going to create a really agile job description that serves you as a first-time CEO well? It's like this. Point 1, if you have a brief that's been written when you were being hired into this role, or there's a job spec from the previous person being CEO. Read it and then think, right, how would you rewrite it in your very own words? By writing in your words, you're not assuming your interpretation of language is just the same as the language interpretation by others. Quick example, think of the colour green for me. Yeah, everyone right now listening or watching this video is thinking of green. We are all 100% accurate. If I ask you now to Pantone your green, you will see that we're all in fact different. Some perhaps radically so. It's that difference, that assumption, that brings danger, brings dissatisfaction, and actually sets a new CEO up to fail. Okay, but if you're rewriting the brief in your own words, you're actually internalizing what you believe that job is and how to therefore communicate it with others. Once you've rewritten the brief or the job spec, or actually indeed just created one by yourself, you then can do something that I refer to as bucketing up. You put that context into 5 key buckets. This is so that you can have clarity on what your role is, and also therefore clarity on what your role isn't, okay? Because a great job spec gives you healthy boundaries. When you bucket up, you then want to percentage weight each of those buckets. Now, the interesting thing when I get my clients to do this is part of my stamp module in the Real Method. When they start to percentage weight their 5 buckets, normally they go way over 100%. And that's where CEOs become stressed, actually come into danger territory, because we are finite, okay? We only have 100% of energy to give. So if your buckets add up to more than that, you're in trouble. It's not sustainable, okay? So bucket up and percentage weight it. That helps you to really focus on where you think priorities lie. And you can take this average percentage weighting and think, right, do you know what? In my first month as new CEO, I'm going to apply those percentage weightings in this way. Because once I've got those first bits out of the way, I'll have more percentage then to give to other areas. And a great way of testing, sense testing if you're right, get key stakeholders or your boss, if you have a founder or a group CEO, whoever, to do the purpose, one line, and do the 5 buckets and percentage weight them naked to yours, so they haven't seen yours, okay? Are their 5 buckets and percentage weightings the same as yours? Or if they're vastly different, let's address that quickly rather than just keep running down that assumption, same green, until it's obvious you're talking a different language actually, okay? So you've shared it, and the final thing to do is when you've been in that new CEO job for a while, maybe 3 months, review it. Jobs are changing, never more so in the world of work that we're currently living in and all the uncertainty. So what was right 3 months ago as CEO may in fact now no longer be as accurate or effective. Go back to your core role. I doubt that's radically changed, but it might need an important tweak. Go back to those buckets and the percentage weightings. Are they accurate? Are they motivating? Are they achievable? Do people agree? So a whistle-stop tour there. As I said, I could talk for England about this. But successful leaders do need a job spec. It's not dull. It's not just complying to HR. It's the difference between you having a good time as first-time CEO and you wading through treacle to work out what your job even is. So hope that's been helpful. And please join me for the next chapter, which will be, hang on, just remind myself because there are 8 of them. It will be recasting relationships now that you're the boss, because that is so important. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. Oh, and please do, quick PS, please do share and support this series. It's been created to help people and I'd love your help in doing that. Cheers. Bye-bye.